up every other week in the pub, and occasionally we have talks like this. It's going to be hopefully a really lovely event tonight. We have got, how do I go next slide? Do I just do that? No. Thank you. Yes, so this is the agenda for tonight. We've just had the arrival and networking and the pizza and the drinks. Hope you're all enjoying them. So we're just going to start with a little introduction to Brighton Blockchain and to Silicon Brighton. It is because of Silicon Brighton that we are here tonight. You can see they've got all this wonderful video equipment, and we're very grateful to them. Then we're going to have the talk from Sammy, and then after that, there's plenty of time for questions and answers and anything else, any other chatting. So this is the talk that you're all here for. We're going to go to that in a bit. But first of all, I'm going to introduce Grace from Silicon Brighton, and she's going to tell you all about what they're doing, supporting meetups and connecting the tech community in Brighton.
Thank you and hello. Yes, I'm Grace and I run Silicon Brighton. We're basically a community initiative and we work with loads of different meetups across the city. There's about 20 altogether, lots of different tech topics, skill sets, different things to appeal to kind of different people depending on sort of what your background is and also what you're keen to kind of learn about as well. So there's loads of people that come with a really base level knowledge or no knowledge at all and just want to learn something new. And we always come with our AV stuff so that everything can be live streamed and super inclusive for people at home. And there's always beer and pizza as well. So if you want to kind of meet different people in a different space as well, or sort of learn something new, then check us out online. And there's a list of all the groups that we support and host on there, and they are all for free as well. Thank you. And we are funded by our members. So all these amazing companies basically fund everything that we do so that we carry on doing what we're doing and keep it free for everyone coming to events like this. These are some of the upcoming events, just to give you a bit of an idea. And in the same way that blockchain is a mix of sort of social, and then obviously we've got this talk tonight. A lot of these are a mixture of sort of social and talks as well. So JavaScript Brighton is at the pub, it's at the Walrus, and the first round for the first hour is on Silicon Brighton. There's Brighton Cloud coming up next week. That is at the MPB offices. Brighton Jug is on the 23rd of Feb. That's happening at Pizza Pilgrims, so free pizza, but by Pizza Pilgrims, funded by us. So that's really cool, and they've got a football pitch downstairs as well. So the site is as interesting as the talk. And then we've got game dev drinks coming up at the Foundry on the 24th of February. So hopefully that gives you a really nice idea of, I guess, the breadth and variety of all the stuff that's happening here in Brighton. But similarly, if you've got ideas for talks, meetups, you want to do something yourself, you want to hear from someone in particular, get in touch with us. We're super open to new ideas and lots of different people getting involved as well. We're very much run for the people, by the people. So anything that you sort of want to see happen, come to us with an idea, and if we can, we will make it happen. This is the save the date for the next Brighton Blockchain meetup. We're looking at the 13th of April, speaker TBC, but basically join this group if you're not already a member, and then you get notified of any events that are coming up. Brighton Blockchain is on Discord. So this is the QR code to join Discord. There'll be loads of chat happening in between. If you can't wait to the next event or to the next social to connect with people. And then we have our own Slack group as well, which is sort of across the Silicon Brighton community, that if you want to sort of join and again, just chat in between these sort of events, that's the platform to do so. And that is it.
All right, thank you very much. I will also post the link to the Discord on the meetup.com group as a comment after the event. So you can join it there too and chat with us after the event and stay connected. That's what we're all about. So without further ado, please give a warm round of applause. A big welcome to Sammy.
Thanks, guys. So I'm Sammy Verghese, co-founder and CEO of DGen Labs. I'm here to talk to you today about how innovation beats iteration, what that means for the future of NFTs, and specifically what we're building at DGen Labs. Now, little disclaimer before I jump into the slides. I was a victim of a hit and run a few weeks ago, just over a month ago, in fact, and had to spend a lot of time off work. So when I actually booked this talk in with Milo, it was on the premise that we would have already launched our project. Obviously, a lot of time in hospital and on the sofa means that we are behind schedule. So you guys will be the first people in the world that find out what we're building outside of our internal team and our investors. However, I've had to redact some of it. And also, don't judge me on the quality of the slides. This was fairly rushed. So what is innovation? Innovation, in the Oxford English Dictionary, is the introduction of new ways, ideas, or ways of doing something. Cool. But how I like to think of innovation, how DGen Labs likes to think of innovation, is something that changes the course of industry and or human behavior forever. Now remember that point, because that theme will run through everything that we're doing and building. A few examples of innovation. I'll be quick on these because some of these are fairly boring, as my girlfriend told me. The compass, the magnetic compass. So the humble compass, obviously fairly redundant these days, replaced by the satellite, GPS, etc. But opened the seas, opened the world, opened civilization essentially to globalization, made the world a smaller place, changed human behavior forever. The magnified lens. Now, that allowed human beings to peer into the cosmos, understand our place in the universe. But not only that, it allowed for the innovation of the microscope, allowed scientists to see within our body, changed human behavior forever. Paper currency, internet. I'm definitely not going to speak to you guys about the internet and how much of an innovation that is. So we'll skip those. What is innovation? What is iteration? Sorry. Iteration is a new version of something that already exists. Hugely important. Iteration is still hugely important within companies. If you're a product manager, if you're a designer, iteration still holds a lot of weight. The UI, UX developments within a platform, within a technology, etc. Examples, I've actually stolen this example from Simon Sinek, but it's a good example of iteration. Colgate. Does anybody know how many different versions of Colgate there are on the market? 27. 27 different versions of the same product. They're just different iterations of the same product. Does that mean that increases adoption of brushing your teeth? No. Does that change the way humans interact with brushing their teeth? No. It's just an iteration. I'll say just an iteration. Still important because it's important for market share, but it doesn't change the way humans behave. The iPhone camera, every time we get an update or we update our contract, we get a new camera, 4K camera, 3 cameras, 2 camera, 1 camera, face camera, back camera. But that doesn't really change human behavior. We had cameras long before smartphones. We had cameras long before phones. Essentially, we just bundled 2 technologies together. CBDCs, I'm not going to get into because that's a whole can of worms. Well, actually, before we get into that, so why the hell am I on stage talking about the difference between compasses and Colgate? Well, I believe, and hopefully some of you in the audience believe, that blockchain has the power to be one of the world's greatest innovations. It just suffers from a PR problem currently. Hacks, scams, fraud, etc. People are shying away from blockchain, and they're shying away from the concept of blockchain. Now, why is AI on the slide? Well, everyone understands AI. Everyone gets it conceptually. That's because AI has existed in the collective consciousness, in the zeitgeist, since 1872, the first novel, the first mention of machine learning, but with intelligent machines. So we've all grown up with AI. We've grown up with the idea of AI, but we haven't grown up with the idea of blockchain. Blockchain enables radical new business models. It allows communities to participate within projects. It allows communities and individuals to interact and own assets for the first time. Now, obviously macro view on this, so there are probably varying levels of expertise in the audience. So I'm not going to dive too deeply into this, but Bitcoin is classed as an innovation in my mind. Bitcoin was the first trustless, decentralized, and censorship-resistant currency on the planet to ever exist. Now, why is that important? That's important because of a few examples. If you just think about the Canadian trucker incident, the protests, etc. So in Canada, for those that don't know, the Canadian truckers were protesting against the government and certain rights, etc. I'm not going to get into the political side of the debate, but it turns out that Justin Trudeau and the Canadian government decided to block the accounts of anybody that was donating to the Canadian truckers' cause. Now, that's a civil liberty. That's a right. That's your right to protest. But the Canadian government, the people who controlled the money, blocked your bank accounts. So even if you were just somebody on the street and you said, hey, this is a great cause, I'm going to donate to you, they blocked your bank account. You couldn't feed your children. You couldn't pay your electricity bills. Bitcoin, solves this problem. Bitcoin is censorship resistant. You own it as an individual and nobody can take it away from you. Similar to Ukraine and the Russian invasion. When the Ukrainians were fleeing, rightfully, that's their right to flee, the right to take money out of the banks did not allow them to take that cash out. Now, again, that's fractional reserve banking, and turns out that even in the UK, like if every single person in the UK tried to get their money out of a bank could only afford to pay you 10%. Now, again, Bitcoin solved this problem. That's an innovation. It changes human behavior. It allowed the Ukrainians to convert their cash, the digital cash, in their banks to Bitcoin and move it across the border. An innovation. Ethereum ushered in the dawn of the smart contract. I'm not going to go too deep into this. Most people understand Ethereum, but allows projects to build decentralized applications. Now, how important is a decentralized application? Is it going to get mass adoption similar to Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin going to replace the US dollar, the British pound? My view, controversial for somebody who works and breathes the blockchain world, the Web3 world, I don't think Bitcoin takes over currency. I don't think Ethereum takes over AWS, for example, but I think they are great alternatives and they're great innovations for people that need those innovations. DAOs. Now, DAOs are a funny one. Again, for anyone who doesn't actually know, so a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. Now, that allows communities all around the world, borderless, to be able to control and govern structures, corporate structures, governments, potentially councils. Now, could that be an innovation? Could that change human behavior? I think DAOs above Bitcoin and Ethereum could potentially change more human behavior than ever. Think about a government, for example. Now, we elect individual parliamentarians to essentially vote on behalf of us. But if you look at their voting records, how many times would you agree with their voting records? If you had a token in the UK economy DAO or the UK political parliament DAO, you could choose to delegate that token to a representative of your choice, or you could choose to vote every single time on any issue you wanted. You don't have to take part, but you could. DAOs, potentially huge innovation. But anyway, hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of how we see innovation and how we see iteration. Probably different to most companies and organizations, but what we're really here to talk about today is NFTs. So what is an NFT? Well, an NFT is a cryptographic asset on blockchain with unique identification codes and metadata that distinguishes them from each other. It's a non-fungible token. Absolutely no branding awards to whoever came up with that. Essentially, this goes back to the previous point. It's a communications PR disaster. This is why potentially I feel that blockchain NFTs are struggling with adoption, not to mention UI, UX, etc. But really, what is an NFT? Well, an NFT is a digital certificate of ownership attached to a blockchain. That's the important part, the digital certificate of ownership. And it's attached to a public blockchain. So anybody can verify that at any time, permissionlessly. Somebody in China, somebody in Chile can verify that you own that asset. It can be a company, it can be an individual. So what can a digital certificate of ownership actually mean? Well, theoretically, it's anything you could own. It could be deeds to your house. How are we living in 2023 these days, and you still have physical deeds for your house? You have to file those deeds with the government. Could that not be an NFT? Nobody could ever change that NFT. Only the issuer of the smart contract could change that NFT, which means it's provably your house. You don't have to rely on physical bits of paper. Passport as well. Personally, blows my mind that we still have to carry around physical passports, travel the world, and if you lose that passport, what are you going to do? You have to go to an embassy, you have to go to a consulate. That can be an NFT. It's a digital certificate of ownership. So Hal Finney was actually the first person to conceptualize NFTs, digital assets. And he penned a letter to what he called the cypherpunks, all the way back on the 17th of January, 1993, 30 years ago, slightly over 30 years ago, he was talking about NFTs, essentially. And he was talking about cryptographic trading cards that can be bought with digital crypto-based currencies. Hal Finney was a pioneer. He is an icon, a cult hero in the technology space. Unfortunately, he passed away early and prematurely, but it's no surprise that version 1 of NFTs, which are currently on the market, have taken much of the structure of what Hal Finney discussed. So what are the different types of NFTs on the market currently? Well, art. Art is one of the great use cases for blockchain and NFTs. Think about fake Picassos, Rembrandts, etc. If you had that bit of art and you could put it on the blockchain and that was an NFT, you could provably own that. Anybody could provably own that. And anybody could check whether that authentication or authenticity was real. Video game assets. This one blows my mind. Like, there is a huge amount of uproar in the video game space about not allowing NFTs within video games. I don't know if anybody here works in the video game space, but I would love to speak to you after to pick your brains on how that works. But essentially, think about video games and how they work. In-app purchases, in-game purchases, even trading your time to level up on level 50 on Call of Duty. Why can't you own that? Transpose that into a physical world. I could buy this laptop, I could buy that projector, I could buy that projector screen. I could use that for however long I wanted. But once I'm finished with it, I can sell it. So why do I have to buy a new car on a racing game, a new gun on a first-person shooter game? Why can I not then sell that to somebody else who wants that? Video games will be, in my opinion, a huge use case for NFTs, and it's shocking that it hasn't got that far. Music NFTs. Rihanna in the news relatively recently. So she did the Super Bowl halftime show, and she performed "Bitch Better Have My Money" or whatever it's called. That was part of a wider campaign. So what she did was she sold 300 NFTs. Those NFTs allowed the owners of those NFTs to claim future royalties on that track forever. Now, a little bit of a piss take, I know it's recorded, apologies, but unfortunately, she only gave away 1% of those royalties. But the idea, the innovation is there. Just think about how that multiplies in terms of future artists. If you saw Ed Sheeran, if you were lucky enough to see Ed Sheeran in a pub or a club when he only had 10 fans, 100 fans, you could have bought one of his music NFTs. You could have supported that. And with that finance, he didn't have to go to a record label. He could have published his own music. He could have cut out Warner. He could have cut out Sony, who he pays 60% of all his revenues to. Music NFTs could revolutionize the face of the music industry. But PFPs, digital identity, IP, that's the sort of big one. That's how everybody sees NFTs at the moment. Monkey pictures, pixelated bits of art. And sort of rightfully so, to be honest. Like, that is the engagement tool. That is how we can build communities. That is how we can build digital identity. That is how we can build tribes across the world who have common purposes and common goals. So what do NFTs look like now? I'm sure probably most of you have seen these. That's a Bored Ape in the top left. That sold for something like $3 million relatively recently. Fairly mind-blowing. But even more mind-blowing, the CryptoPunk in the middle, that is another PFP IP sort of play, and that sold for $11 million. The Fidenza top right, that is a art project valued at something like $200,000, $300,000. And bottom left is the Rihanna NFT we were just talking about. Snoop Dogg, not Decentraland, Sandbox, digital land, digital metaverses, another use case for NFTs. My personal favorite, though, the crypto dick butt. So that is right. Anytime you give humans the ability to, they will inevitably find a way to draw a penis somewhere. Turns out, some of you might actually know this, but turns out that there's actually a term for it. It's called TTP, time to penis. And it's the mathematical equation for how long it takes a user to draw a penis on a bit of software or technology. So what do all these have in common, minus the penis part? Well, it's intellectual and digital property and community creation and engagement. Now, I want you to remember the second paragraph that I'm about to read out, because again, that theme is all about DGen Labs. So the reason human beings are top of the food chain is not because of individual strength, but because of our ability to innovate as well as form tight communities and cultures, and to be able to communicate within those networks to achieve common goals. But before I get onto the DGen Labs side of things, the future of NFTs. So an NFT can be anything. Essentially, that little sentence there is our fascination at DGen Labs and my personal fascination. An NFT can be anything, any object. That is the route to mass adoption for blockchain, not because blockchain needs to be mass adopted, but blockchain should be mass adopted because of NFTs. On-chain resumes, credit scores, any store of value, that's essentially everything an NFT can also be, and people are currently working on these things. You, perhaps in 5 or 10 years, you won't be showing somebody your CV, you'll be showing somebody your wallet. Your crypto wallet will hold all your certification in it, will hold licenses, the companies you work for, the causes you support, the charities, your credit score, your taxes. Slightly dystopian, but potentially possible. And yeah, every big non-Web3 brand is currently working on an NFT strategy at the moment. There is a study, I think it's something like 83 of the top 100 companies on the planet are all working on some type of NFT blockchain strategy. Hugely bullish on NFTs. But hopefully that gives you some sort of context in our thesis, who we are, how we see innovation, how we see iteration, and what the blockchain sort of ecosystem currently looks like. Little break for water. But now, the introduction to DGen Labs. So as I was saying at the beginning of this, way behind schedule, and this talk also caused some issues. So I haven't got any further slides on this. So I'm just going to talk to you about what we're doing, what we're building. So essentially, DGen Labs is trying to revolutionize how wealth is created, how communities co-create brands, and how value is shared and equally distributed among those communities. So how did we come about? What's our story? Essentially, my co-founder, I've known my co-founder for 10, 12 years, but he came to me with this idea. I say he came to me, he actually texted me, and he was in Mexico and he was pissed off his face. And that's where every good idea starts, I guess. And he texted me a lot of ideas, mainly all crap, to be totally honest. I know this is recorded, I haven't said that to him before, but a lot of horseshit. But finally, he stumbled upon something. Why don't we co-create a distillery with a Web3 based audience? We sell an NFT and we allow all of those NFT holders to join in on strategy, on branding, on marketing, on what product do we sell next? How do we sell it? See if people around the world can really co-create a brand. So we started building DGen Distillery, etc. And we were building this NFT project, this great NFT project, and it was just, at the end of the day, it was just another NFT project. We were adding utility to it. We were doing everything that everybody else on the market was. But we stumbled across the problem. If we have a global audience, if we have holders in China, in Chile, in Canada, in Australia, how do we get a physical product that is made in the UK, and how do we get that to have global distribution? So we ended up being true to ourselves and innovating. We built a first-of-its-kind solution. That solution essentially allows us to convert our communities, so any member, optionally, of course, it's not forced, can go through a short training course. Once you complete that training course, we essentially let you off into the wild, into your local jurisdictions, your local geographies, and your job for us, or for yourself as well, is to onboard accounts. Now, those accounts can be anything like a pub, a restaurant, a club, a corner shop. And once you onboard those accounts and they purchase our spirits and our liquids, we pay you a commission. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're probably thinking, sounds like an affiliate scheme. Well, sort of is, and that's why it's actually called the tokenized affiliate protocol. But the really, really revolutionary, innovative part of what we do is once you onboard that account, we attach that account. So that pub, that restaurant, that venue, we attach it digitally to your NFT, which means you own that account. You own that NFT, which means you own that account. Nobody can take it away from you. I can't take it away from you. The business can't take it away from you. Nobody can take it away from you, which means essentially you get a commission for life as long as that venue is purchasing our spirits. So think about this in a classical sales structure. The classical sales structure is you get paid pounds and pence, dollars and cents, whatever it is, into your bank account. What is that essentially? That is a receipt for your time. You bring in value for a company, but you're not able to accrue any real value. You're not able to accrue any wealth. It's only the shareholders that accrue any assets. So flip it back into our model. Now, our model, the more accounts you bring on, the more value that you create for yourself. You start using your NFT as a pseudo-type business. Again, classical structure. As your revenue and profit goes up in your business, your valuation of your business goes up. As the revenue and profit of your NFT goes up, as you onboard more accounts, as you create a portfolio, the value of your NFT goes up. You're able to do what anybody can do with an asset. You can sit back and relax on that passive income. You've onboarded 50, 100 accounts, whatever it is. Sit back, relax, go on a holiday, sit on a beach. You can sell it. It's yours. You own it. If you're making 100 grand in revenue, 3, 4, 5 times earnings on the market, you can sell it for 3, 4, 500 grand. Or the really degen thing, you can put it into DeFi. You can use it as collateral. You can take a loan against it. People take loans against houses all the time. That's their asset. That's what they can do with it. It's your choice. It's your NFT. So cut to the chase on the technology side of things. We were speaking to our sort of investors, our advisors, and every single one of them was like, well, we've got a distribution problem with our portfolio company, or hey, I've got this company, or I'm a founder of this company and I struggle with distribution. I struggle with incentivizing my team. That was our light bulb moment. We realized everyone needs this, everyone wants this. So we started building slightly differently. We are now building in a 3-phase approach. We were initially going to build a bricks and mortar distillery and run that ourselves, blah, blah, blah. We're not doing that anymore. We are outsourcing that. We have partnered with, the cans are on the table actually, we've partnered with Brewdog. Brewdog are now running our distillery. It's a global partnership. And they are manufacturing our spirits, our liquids, helping us with logistics, supply chain, etc., listing us in all 120 venues. So from day one, we're in Vegas, we're in London, we're all around the world. Phase 2 is our community. We train our community. We give them the support they need to be able to prove the business model, to be able to prove the incentives, to be able to prove the idea that you can really co-create an international brand and share that value with every single person who interacts with you. Phase 3 is we open the technology to allow any other company to leverage. Now, think about it as a platform. So the more companies that join, the more users, the more sellers there are. It's a network effect. It's a flywheel effect. There are similar companies that have tried this in the past, not on a technology basis, not on a blockchain basis, but in a direct sales model. Now, the most famous one you've probably heard of is Avon. Avon is a multi-billion-dollar cosmetics brand. Now, that cosmetics brand was built on the back of tens of thousands of direct sellers all across the world. Slightly different. I mean, they were B2C. The direct sellers would sell to their friends and run events, etc. But think about it. If any one of you wanted to launch a makeup brand tomorrow, and you could plug in directly, permissionlessly, nobody could take that away from you, and you could contact every single Avon direct seller across the world, how important, how impactful would that be to you? And then you could incentivize them by having true ownership in whatever value they bring in. You would wipe the floor with Avon. Avon can't compete with that. That is essentially what the tokenized affiliate protocol will be. So our go-to-market is still very similar to most NFT projects. We will be releasing a PFP-style collection. However, that PFP will sit upon TAP, the tokenized affiliate protocol, and allow any user to add value back into the ecosystem in terms of sales. That is, again, phase 1 of TAP. We are looking to add new ways in which the community can interact. So our sort of thesis on how work will work in the future is people won't have 9-to-5 jobs. Not everybody will be sitting in offices. People will be plugging in and plugging out of gigs. The gig economy is now represents nearly 47% of the US, for example. So we would also like to add different amounts of, or different avenues into TAP. Do any of you write code? If we needed a swap platform, you could write that code. We could attach a royalty to that platform forever to your NFT. As long as we use that, you can build value. You can add value back in. Not just add value back in, but you can extract value back out. That is the whole premise of TAP, what we're building. And yeah, at this stage, I think that's it. I'm not sure if I missed anything, but there are a few other bits and pieces that we will be launching and announcing very shortly. However, like I said at the beginning of this, we had to actually take out every single slide because there were quite a few secrets in there that we haven't announced yet. But yeah, open the floor to any questions. Happy to be here as long as possible. Any questions, feel free to ask them. And thank you to Silicon Brighton for doing this. Anyone got anything? Or I can just ramble on for another 10 minutes.
Sorry, would you get to pause?
Sure.
It's a really interesting idea. I guess the way of the world is that humans make mistakes, and if I'm a sales guy and I sell you booze and I make a mistake and that the guy doesn't want to buy the booze off me, that contract might want to change hands, not through my, basically by me making a mistake. How does that factor into technology? It's not all black and white, yes or no answers, you know what I mean?
Yeah, do I need the mic? Can people hear me? Yes. Yeah. Oh, I do need the mic, okay. So are you, the question is, if something goes wrong with that contact, that point of contact, yeah, so essentially, again, TAP is more B2B. So the individual sales rep, the brand ambassador, whatever we end up calling them, will only be interacting with businesses. Now, stuff can still go wrong with businesses, of course, and individuals can be bad actors. There is a system designed within TAP, but it requires, it's not a unilateral system, essentially. We can't take that away. It requires 2 of 3 parties. So us as a company, the person you're selling to, and or the individual agent. 2 or 3 of those parties have to agree to move the contract. So let's say, the only example I can think of is you passed away, so apologies about that. But the company and the pub or club can both agree that this contract needs to be moved, and then the system allows it. But nobody can unilaterally take it away from you. Anything else?
Yeah, you said you're doing a PFP profile picture project as well. Yeah. Why? What's that about? What is that just for DGen Distillery as well?
Yeah, good question. So that is a little bit on our thesis of NFTs, right? So NFTs, we believe in their current form, they are a little bit basic, but we believe in digital identity very much. Think about your Twitter handle, your Facebook URL, your Instagram handle. People already have digital identities. They have different names, your PlayStation name, your Xbox name. You already have a digital identity. We believe that once the metaverse is finally here, whether it's in actual VR mode or AR mode, that people will want a digital identity. They'll want a different them representing themselves. If you have the ability to be anybody, won't you be anybody? So the PFP for us is, this is our tribe. This is our brand. This is our community. If you want to represent yourself digitally through our PFP, then yeah, go for it, essentially. Anything else? Go for it, mate.
Yeah, so obviously you're also going to release this as a open protocol and basically a technology for other businesses and other use cases. I'm wondering if you thought what other use cases this might be really suited for, what other things might work well on this, if you've thought at all about that.
Yeah, so we've thought a little bit about it, obviously. In terms of the technology itself, you're talking, right? The protocol. So this essentially, anything that there is already recurring revenue. So a lot of SaaS businesses, SaaS sales agencies or SaaS sales representatives, what they're doing, think about it, like every SaaS platform is a monthly subscription. These people are like breaking their backs, going on 8, sometimes 12, 18-month sales cycles for one business to land that. And they're just getting paid 75 grand, 100 grand a year. I say just, I mean, that's a ton of money, but they're creating a ton of value. Do you know, think about, again, SaaS multiples. I don't want to dive too deep into how VCs value SaaS businesses, but annual recurring revenue is valued sometimes at 20, 30x. A year or two ago, it was valued at 100x. Now, if you're getting an enterprise client in, and that enterprise client is paying $10,000 a year, your value to that company is actually 100x that, but you're only getting paid 75 to 100 grand of that. Why can you not extract value out of that? So we believe SaaS is very low hanging fruit. YouTube influencers, etc. YouTube influencers, they build up vast audiences. They partner with a lot of external brands, and they run affiliate marketing campaigns, essentially. Now, if you could track that individual user and the lifetime value of that individual user, you could ascribe a value to, wouldn't that be hugely beneficial to YouTube influencers? Most YouTube influencers, they be an influencer for a few years, 5 years, before they burn out, before the content gets too much. They've created value for YouTube, but they've created no real value for themselves, essentially. You can't necessarily sell that channel to someone else because you are the face of that channel. But all the partnerships that you create, all the value that you create, you can own that value. You can sell that value. So yeah, good question. But yeah, a ton of other use cases, but I'm not going to ramble on about another 10, unless you want me to. Any other questions? Don't feel shy. You can even ask any blockchain questions. It doesn't have to be about the business.
Thanks. Yeah, I just was interested. Sorry, this is very new to me, so I'm trying to get my head around it. But you talked about that community that you're building. Is that in place at the moment? And if so, kind of how big is it? Or is that, can you talk about that?
Is it in place in the moment? Sort of yes and no. Like we were meant to. We were meant to launch at the end of January, but we're behind our own schedules, obviously, because of personal circumstances. Is it in place? We have a few hundred people. A lot of that is fairly networked ourselves, like private networks. We are opening that network relatively soon. I am conscious of the fact that in my previous presentation, I actually had a how to stay in contact with us slide at the end, but because I had to cut that presentation, it's not there. But I think if I pass the details on to Milo, you can put it in the Brighton Blockchain group. We are from Brighton. Me and my co-founder, we're from Brighton. I came here for university when I was 18, been here 15 years. So for us, the Brighton community is really important. This is why we wanted our first talk to actually be in Brighton. Our next ones are in London, Google, etc. But Yeah, we will be opening that to the general public very soon. And if you want to stay in touch in any way, shape or form, then I'll pass the details over to Milo.
You may have mentioned this already because I came in a bit late, but your deal or partnership with Brewdog, is that like a white label deal or is it a collaboration type? And is their name going to be attached to this, or is it more they're sorting out with the product?
Okay, come around this way. Don't forget the question.
Good one. Yeah, it was is Brewdog's name going to be attached to it essentially, right? Yes. So Degen Distillery is its own brand, but it's run in partnership with Brewdog. Brewdog are the manufacturers, are the logistics, the suppliers, etc. It's not going to say Degen Distillery by Brewdog, but it's the actual label of the bottle will say Degen Distillery on the front. At the back, it will say in partnership with Brewdog. In terms of like our websites, our social media, etc., similar things. It is a full partnership. We get full support of their social media, their email databases, everything. Is it a white label? You also asked that, I just remembered. Is it a white label? It depends on how you define white label. We're not taking their spirits. We're manufacturing our own recipes, our own ideas, our own IP, and they're just manufacturing it for us, essentially. If you think about other brands and how that works in like the FMCG space, Red Bull have never manufactured their own liquid ever. They actually outsource the entire thing. Bombay Sapphire, another one. They only recently took in manufacturing in-house, I think 4 or 5 years ago. Before that, it was all external partners. AU Vodka, another one, fairly popular these days, completely outsourced. So it's not a new model, the outsourcing. It just helps us as a team. We're a small team. There's 7 of us, plus advisors. It helps us not have to concentrate on launching a global spirits brand and a global technology at the same time. We can just concentrate on proving the model, proving the technology works, the efficiencies, etc., and allow Brewdog to essentially scale it for us. Great deal, to be honest. Anything else? I can do this one.
So will it be on So will it be on a public blockchain? If so, I could see what deals they've got, what their percentages are. The other agents.
Yeah, good question. So is it the question was, is it on a public blockchain? It is, yes, right now it's on Ethereum. It will migrate into layer 2s as well. Our plan is to go cross-chain. However, I was actually having this conversation earlier. Like, for the distillery itself, we need 10,000 people. We can find those 10,000 people on Ethereum. For the technology, slightly different. We want to appeal to as many different audiences, demographics as possible. So the chances are that it will go cross-chain. It is, I might be giving away too much. Again, this is recorded. It is in our roadmap to go cross-chain. But we will be launching everything on Ethereum natively, L1 and L2 on day 1. Good question, though. I can't believe I didn't mention whether it's on the public blockchain. Any other questions? Some good questions, by the way, guys. Feel free to keep going. Again, it doesn't have to be business-related. Suggestion. Open to that.
Going back to the relationship you have with the affiliates or the brand ambassadors, it sounds to me like it's quite a centralized process that you potentially become a bigger entity with the bigger pub, hairdresser, or whatever, that the affiliate or the brand ambassador might be a bit nervous about being undercut, being thrown out at some point. It might be an idea to have an DAO that everyone that becomes a brand ambassador has a say in what happens in particular situations. Obviously, suppliers can find a cheaper supplier somewhere else, but...
Yes, I take that on board again. Without giving away too much of the roadmap, it's a potential. We want to launch the distillery side of things as a Web 2.5 company, essentially. The technology will be Web 3 through and through. It will be fully decentralized governance tokens, etc. The distillery itself, I'm not sure if I understood your point about the undercutting of suppliers, because once you, as an individual, you onboard that account, anytime they purchase a degen distillery liquid or bottle, they are automatically guaranteed a commission. Now, that doesn't matter what bottle it is, as long as they are purchasing degen distillery. But yes, some of that is included, like account management is included. So you have to continuously like incentivize the pub or the restaurant to stay on board. But we provide that. And is that centralized? Yeah, sort of. Like, we make no bones about the fact that the distillery is initially on day one is a 2.5. It could, again, recorded, but it could look to transition in the future. I won't say too much more than that. Anything else? Did I answer your question, by the way? I think so, yeah. I guess it's just yeah, because I didn't quite understand the undercutting. If you want to explain that again. Oh yeah, Mike. Sorry.
I guess just it's human behavior, and you can't code all options, all scenarios, and so it can't be built in some kind of contract or set up at the start. And I guess I don't fully understand the relationship between all three parties, but I guess just to make it fair. So if I were becoming and putting a lot of effort as a brand ambassador to get deals, that I'd like security that it's not just you, I'm relying on your goodwill, that blockchain is a trustless, permissionless kind of thing, that it just needs everyone else like me, other brand ambassadors, to have a say in my situation as well as you guys and whoever else, but I don't know the full detail of your,
Yeah, I mean, so there's protection outside of the code. I mean, you raise a good point. Like, we haven't done a full deep dive on like the tech stack or what the metadata will hold, but there is protection outside the code itself. So included in the metadata is the terms of service. So once you purchase that NFT, we're legally bound by those terms of service. We can't change that. You could essentially take us to court if we break those terms of service. That is on the point of purchase. So not only does the code enforce that only that it takes 2 out of 3 parties, for example, to take a deal away from somebody, but the contract actually states that itself, and that contract is fully contained in the metadata. I say fully contained. I lie a little bit. It's a link to a document, but that document doesn't change. It's on IPFS. But yeah, did I answer the question that time?
So going back to the NFT as a sort of, so if say I've got the NFT, I've made a deal. What if I get hacked and someone compromises my wallet, whatever? Is there a way for me to still keep hold of everything? Yeah.
So what if you get hacked? Good question again. So that a couple of things there. So 2 out of 3 parties can attest to the fact that that NFT or those commissions need to move to another NFT. However, the issue is, how do you get the initial NFT back? Like, we can do certain things, like we can blacklist that NFT. It means that no commissions could ever be attached to that NFT, but there's still a secondary market value for it because there's digital identity, there's IP, there's etc. That problem hasn't quite been solved in NFTs as yet. It's a good question, but there's a lot of things we can do and there's a lot of things we can't do. I don't know if that was too much of a vague answer, but yeah. Anybody else? Or is it time for a beer? I think, guys, it's time for a beer. Whee!
All right, thanks for coming, everyone. I'll get the details for DGen Labs and I'll put that on the comment on the meetup page. And I'll also post there the link to our Discord group if you want to chat with us after the event, stay part of the community. And also I'll also link to the Silicon Brighton Slack as well to connect with them and stay in touch with the wider Brighton tech community too. It's a great thing to do. All right, thanks for coming. That's it. We can all stick around and chat for a little bit longer if we want to. But yeah, thanks for coming.